regardless of what you think about the idea, you hear the word you hear the phrase get a second star come up a lot with the Mavericks. Is that a fair assumption? Whether or not you agree with it, we hear that all the time. All right.
Most people believe to win a championship, you have to have a superstar and an all-star.
All right. So let's go down that path. Let's discuss it. Are you willing to sacrifice much of the Mavericks, I guess, quality and depth to push all in for? It can be Zach Lavine. It can be whoever the hell you think that representative is. Just Zach Lavine, he's going to be available. You could pick him up in a sign and trade because of those reasons, and he would fit on this team as a primary secondary scorer who can also handle the ball and everything like that. So Zach Lavine checks off a whole lot of boxes. How do you guys feel about the idea that it would cost X, Y, and Z, and we get into the specifics of that in just 1 second, to get your second star?
I guess I will lean towards it, and here is why. And this is where you have to make your decision if you're Nico and the front office and Mark Cuban. Are we just a role player or two away from winning the championship? Or did we make a run that's going to be very tough to make again with somewhat this team coming back? Do we believe Luka, Jalen Brunson, and role players can win a championship and put us in championship contention for the next 5 years? Or do we believe, I don't want to say luck, but we got as far as this team can ever get with what they have?
Yeah, this group, that's as far as it's going. I don't think it's going any further than that, because you have a very glaring hole if a team can go to the basket on you, or if you're going to get out-rebounded in all these games. So, like, you have a deficiency that you have to figure out how to fix. Now, Zach Lavine doesn't fix that. He makes you better.
That's true.
But you do also have to ask the question, does Zach Lavine fit with Luka? Can't just say, well, they're two stars and just mash them up.
Sure.
Like Durant and Kyrie Irving. Sure, that like Durant was given everything he had out there. Kyrie wasn't. You know,
Sure.
like you like to find it, you got to find the right mesh of things. And that's one thing I think Nico can do, is because he knows all these guys personally. He knows them, and he's been kind of probably taking some detailed mental notes on their psychology too. And is that personality does he want to win as bad as Luka does? And does he want to make those types of sacrifices that it's going to take to do it? Like, you look at Clay and Steph. They grew up as stars together, right? Like, they created their own stardom together, but they're a very unselfish group that does not get butthurt about anybody really going and doing their thing and getting paid. KP didn't work because he didn't want to be part of what Luka wanted.
Now, that is interesting, because Dorian Finney-Smith is most certainly on your side here. He said, if you go back during the Western Conference Finals, we're here. We're a top 4 team in the NBA. You can try to add another star, but you never know how that's going to mesh with Luka or the other personnel. It's an adjustment to play with somebody like Luka too, and I feel like Brunson adjusted well, Dinwiddie too. That bunch of stars don't even work anymore. So you can count Dorian Finney-Smith in that group. But when I look at the fan text, I see a whole lot of people who are like, do it. We're talking about bench players anyway. We're talking about this. We're talking about that. And then for the very first one I saw, it's from the 214. Yes, next question. So, like, there's a lot of people who are like, give me the star. Yeah, I don't care what it costs, I don't know. And
I think what needs to be understood here is, most likely, if you do this, first of all, Brunson has to go. You cannot keep him do this without Brunson leaving. And people say, well, okay, fine, no problem. But you're probably also going to run into Maxi Kleber is gone, Reggie Bullock is gone. If not, Dorian Finney-Smith is gone, Tim Hardaway Jr. is gone. Like, you're going to have to gut this team, and you're going to be down to 3 players that you believe in. Luka, the star you acquire, and one other guy stays on this team. And literally, you're left with undrafted rookies, Sterling Browns, who's filling in.
Who's that guy for you? Who's that guy, the one other guy that stays on this team?
It doesn't matter. You can't pick. If you want the star, you have to say everybody's available besides Luka. You can't pick in these situations, Corey. You have to make your whole team available to get the guy, and have to live with, well, Reggie Bullock's left. Or I would say Dorian Finney-Smith.
That's the one I would say too.
you can't make him untradeable if you're trying to go get an all-star or another superstar. If they say it's either Dorian Finney-Smith or we don't do it, then you're not really into acquiring another all-star or superstar.
So let's say it is. You lose Brunson, you lose Finney-Smith, you lose Bullock, Hardaway. Let's just go across the board. Is that now, because you see the same thing that I do, Corey. We see it all the time, is Davis Bertans and somebody else for Dame Lillard or whatever. And yes, well, sure.
Deal. But you know what? I don't want to do it that bad. But deal. Okay. You know?
I would also
not really.
I would also do that. But let's say
shaking your hand begrudgingly.
Let's say, and this is a make-believe trade, but let's just say it is the constraints of Zach Lavine. You can change it to DeAndre Ayton, whoever you see fit.
Right.
But the package is Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, or something like that. Yeah. Maybe Hardaway too, but like then the salaries. Anyways,
right.
But you get the idea.
How good of a defender is Lavine?
He's I was gonna say he's okay, but solid.
My concern now is my concern now is like that right there. I don't have a good defense.
You do not,
because Tim Hardaway Jr. is not going to be one of my key defensive players. Nope. I don't think that team's going to be able to hang their hat on that at all. So like that is the thing that you have to decide. And Mike's right. Like they want your players, you want that guy. You got to make these kinds of sacrifices.
Would Ayton make any difference there then in terms of he goes more immediately to a gap that people think is missing on this
want
team?
To see Luka with a big, because as I think you can get points anytime you want with Luka and a big, because he can make all those passes. It doesn't matter what pass it is. He can make them, and he's willing to do it. Mike's right. When he was on the JJ Redick podcast, he said, I'd rather be a better passer than I would scorer, but it's so easy to score here. That was where the quote really got taken, was it's just so much easier to score here. He knows he can be a passer. I want to see him with a big. I don't think DeAndre Ayton is mentally big enough to do it yet, though. Yeah, I still think he's a little lost in trying to figure out, how do I use my body and my frame to go do something special?
That's where I'm with Corey. Is I don't know if DeAndre Ayton's ever going to be a star in this league.
Okay.
I think you might be trading for a good center, but not an all. I don't think, as much as his body looks like he could develop into a Joel Embiid-like player. Now, Joel Embiid is bigger than he is, but that's what, for DeAndre Ayton, what if you're just getting a guy who Chris Paul has struggled to get the most out of, that they've struggled to, he should have. I mean, he went against the worst center in the NBA in the playoffs, and Dwight Powell, and struggled to dominate on a consistent basis. So I'm not against DeAndre Ayton. First of all, I think this. Phoenix would, I think, look at it and go, if we're doing a sign and trade, do we want to send him to Dallas, or do we want to somewhat send him to the Eastern Conference? If we're doing something like this, like, I don't think they're going to be like, hey, let's send DeAndre Ayton to the LA Lakers, or let's send him to the Dallas Mavericks, or let's send him to competition that could beat us. If we're going to move him because he doesn't want to be here anymore, I don't know how bad they would want to send him to a competitor.